Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you're able to wake up this morning after having turkey this week. Sometimes that tires us out after we've had a big Thanksgiving meal, but I hope you're rested. I hope you are ready to go. I hope that your Thanksgiving holiday went well, even if it wasn't normal. I know some of you had to stay a little closer to home than normal, didn't get to see as many cousins, but I hope you had a great time thanking the Lord for all that He's done. Peter, we sure have a lot to thank God for, don't we? There are so many things, boys and girls. I hope you take time not just over the Thanksgiving holiday, but even as we head into Christmas, that you don't become selfish. Selfishness is what we're going to talk about today, Peter. The fact that we just came off of a holiday about being thankful. We head into Christmas, and oftentimes it's, yes, let's open that. I might date myself here. We used to open the toy catalog, Pastor Josh and I, and we'd want to circle things in the toy catalog. I don't know if you kids still do that. You probably, circle. Peter's going to circle. I don't know. Maybe you have an Amazon wish list and you kind of put it in mom and dad's cart and hope they'll see it there. I'm not sure. But yeah, we're headed into Christmas, and oftentimes we can become selfish. But you know what, boys and girls? We're going to look back like we've been in Genesis. And if you remember, we've been talking about Noah. Well, we're going to fast forward past Noah. And Peter, do you know what major Bible character comes next? Who might we talk about next? His name starts with an A, boys and girls. Do you have a guess of who it might be? We're going to talk about Abram. No, Miss Kropnik, his name is Abraham, right? That's probably what they're thinking, Peter. Well, boys and girls, in our story where we're at today, his name's still Abram. Abram is actually the name his parents gave to him. And maybe next week or so we'll discuss, maybe 2 weeks, where his name gets changed to Abraham. But we are in Genesis chapter 11, and it starts actually with Abraham's dad named Terah. Well, they were in a wicked city. Is wicked a good thing or a bad thing, Peter? Good or bad? Oh yeah, wicked is bad. Wicked is the idea of sinful, evil, awful. Wherever they looked around them was sin, and more sin, and more sin. And Terah, Abram's dad, says, Abram, this city's awful. We've got to move. We've got to get out of this city. And Abram agreed. Abram wanted to obey God. Abram loved God. He wanted to obey. So he's like, you're right, Dad. We have got to get out of this wicked city. Well, it wasn't just like the dad and the mom and Abram. If you look here, boys and girls, there were so many people who were traveling. And they had their animals to travel with them. A little bit more than if you take your pet dog on vacation. They had donkeys and sheep and horses and camels. And they were traveling. And they were traveling. And they traveled some more. And they traveled some more. And they got to a place called Haran. And Terah, the dad, says, you know what? Let's stop here. So Abram did. He stopped there. He lived there with his dad for a little bit. I want to read to you from Genesis chapter 11 and verse 31. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. So they left Ur. Ur was the wicked place. They start traveling, they start walking, and they're headed towards Canaan, but they stop in Haran. And then verse 32, and the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. He lived to be 205 years. That's a long time, boys and girls. Well, they stopped in Haran on this long journey. And then when Terah died, they decided that they should keep traveling because ideally they were headed to the land of Canaan. And they had stopped, possibly because of Terah's health. They thought maybe that was too far. The Bible doesn't really tell us exactly why they stopped, but they had stopped in that city of Haran. Then when Terah passes away, when he goes on, when he dies, Abram says, you know what, we need to start again. We need to travel towards Canaan. That's the land where God told us to go. Well, I don't know if you heard, amongst all those names, we mentioned that Abram was traveling with his wife Sarai, but we also said that he was traveling with Lot. So Lot was traveling with Abram, and they're traveling, and boys and girls, it's not like where you and I get in the car and we just travel for a day. They are spending quite a bit of time traveling, and they're getting tired and they're getting hot, but they just keep traveling. And finally, they get to a place, and we showed you, boys and girls, all of those camels and all of those sheep and all of those donkeys. Well, they have to eat. Peter, what do you think they're eating? I mean, do they eat food like you and I do? Like you do, that's right, Peter. Kind of, but maybe not bamboo. But your food has to grow, right, Peter? Yeah, just like your food has to grow, the sheep needed grass, and the cows needed grass, and the goats needed grass. They all needed grass. Well, Abram is not selfish. He says, you know what, Lot? Our herdsmen, that's a word they might not know, Peter. We probably better tell them what herdsmen are. Herdsmen are kind of like shepherds. They're the herdsmen. They're you might maybe think more like today a farmer. Okay, but the one who's going to take care of the animals. Well, Lot had herdsmen and Abram had herdsmen, and they started fighting. They were quarreling. They were bickering. And they said, this is our land. Put your sheep over there. This is for our sheep. This night's, and they just kept going back and forth. They were fighting and quarreling, and Abram's like, can't have that. That can't happen, can it, Peter? No, they couldn't have the fighting. So Abram says, all right, Lot, you see all of this land. Where do you think that you want to live? And Abram lets Lot choose. Boys and girls, how often do you let somebody else choose first? Or do you want to be the first one to choose? How was it this week at Thanksgiving dinner? Did you want the first piece of dessert? Did you want the biggest piece of dessert? Or did you let somebody else choose first? Well, Abram let his nephew Lot choose first, and Lot chose his land, and we're going to talk about that choice that Lot made another time, not right now, but Abram was not selfish. Abram let Lot make the choice. Abram was going to obey God regardless, and he knew that God would take care of him. But what about you, boys and girls? We can study this Bible in the story in the Bible, and you can think about it, and wow, what a great story about Abram and Lot. But what does it have to do with your life, boys and girls? Are you being selfish? That's kind of hard, isn't it, Peter? Oftentimes we want that biggest piece of dessert, or we want that first thing. But boys and girls, Abram let Lot choose, and God blessed Abram far beyond, because he wasn't selfish and he trusted God. Boys and girls, I hope this week that you will make unselfish choices. Maybe even this afternoon, you can let your brother or sister pick first. Maybe if in junior church or somewhere you get to pick candy out of a bucket or a box, maybe you let somebody else choose first. Who can you put before you? Have a good afternoon, boys and girls. We'll see you later.